Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sir.
Hare Krishna. So let's start, shall we?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So today we're going to start with the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. We've done one part of it. Today we start with the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so last time, so just to recap a little bit, what we'll do is we'll just recap a little bit of what we did last time, and then we'll continue from there. Okay, because I was thinking maybe that we should start with first chapter, but then I thought, like we thought together, that maybe we need to discuss the introduction a little more before we get into the first chapter itself. That will help you understand it even more. So, see, last time we saw that every action of ours in this life is actually meant to solve some problems. We always have some problem in life. Why are we studying engineering? What is engineering all about? Electronics engineering, so that we can talk to each other, because we can't talk to each other without electronics engineering. Or we have automobile engineering so that we can travel. I mean, no one likes to, you don't love your motorcycle, you don't love your scooter. You don't go and kiss your scooter in the morning, and you don't feed your scooter. It's a machine. You're using it for some function. So there is always a problem which we are trying to solve. You go to a doctor. I mean, you don't go to a doctor to wish him Diwali or Holi. You go to a doctor because you're sick. No one likes to go to a hospital for a picnic. You just go because you really need to go there. That's all. And when the need is fulfilled, you immediately go away from that place. So in every action of ours is trying to solve some problem. Now this is summertime in Maharashtra. It's super hot. It's 40-degree plus. It's very hot, but still your mother is going to the kitchen to cook food. It's very painful to cook in the summertime, but still you have to do it because you want to live. You have to eat. So these are problems of life that need to be solved. So, so Bhagavad Gita tells us that the real problem of life is not transportation, communication, or hunger or something. The real problem of our life is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, birth, old age, disease, and death. This is the real problem. And every living entity, irrespective of whether he's a human being or anything, or even the great gods like Brahma, Shiva, they are subject to these. Not Shiva, but Brahma and other demigods, they are subject to this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, birth, old age, disease, and death. So these are real problems of life. Besides this, there are other problems also, problems caused by our own mind. Why am I so tall? Why am I so thin? Why am I so fat? Why can't I be in IIT? Why can't I be in the army? These are our own problems. We create these problems. Then we have problems created by other people, other living entities. Mosquitoes are biting in the summertime. Then you have your principal harassing you, teachers are harassing you. Then if you go, government will harass you when you start your job. So many problems we face from other people. And then finally, the problems created by nature itself. Extreme heat, and very soon now, by next week, you'll have extreme monsoons, extreme rainfall. Here I'm in Europe, we have extreme cold. So these are problems created by nature. So besides birth, old age, disease, and death, we face three more types of problems. And no one is free from them, not even the President of America. Everyone has to suffer. So Bhagavad Gita tells us that an intelligent man tries to make solution of the problem, a permanent solution. So before we can actually create a solution, we need to understand what is the nature of the problem and why is it affecting us. Like if you take your scooter to a mechanic, you tell him that, it's making some strange noise. If you take your car or scooter to the mechanic will ask you, what is the problem? Why have you brought this machine here? So you tell him that, oh, this is what I am experiencing. Then he will open up and say, oh, there's a belt slippage, or maybe the fuel injection is choked, or the plug, the spark plug is dirty. He'll find out the reason then. So just like that, once we know what are the symptoms of the problem, we try to find the root of the problem. So what is the root of the problem? The root of the problem is that we are in this material world. Bhautik sansar, material world. So before we try to solve the problem, we need to go deeper into understanding the problem itself. If you go to a doctor and you tell him that, my stomach is paining, the doctor will investigate further. Does it pain in the morning or in the evening? Is it upper abdomen, lower abdomen? Is it after eating or before eating? So he will diagnose the problem further, because any problem can cause the stomach pain. It could be simple gas, it could be stress, or it could even be cancer. But the doctor has to test it. So just like that, we need to test, we need to understand what is material nature and why is it giving us so much trouble. Lord Chaitanya says, Krishna bhuli sei jeev anadi bahir mukha ataiva maya tare deya sansara dukha. So the living entity has forgotten the supreme, therefore he is suffering in the material world. So we'll come back to this statement afterwards. So what is this material world? Not just the material world, but the whole of creation, material and spiritual, consists of only 5 elements. So, you don't need to memorize it. This will be our subject matter for today. This will be our discussion. You will understand it very simply. And like I said previously also, Bhagavad Gita is not like a textbook that you need to memorize or something that you can, you need to write down. Bhagavad Gita is very commonsensical. Bhagavad Gita is all around you. As you start learning Bhagavad Gita, you will realize that you knew most of these things yourself. We have just put them in one place. So, first of all, you are sitting in the room. What is the most important thing in this room right now? Most important thing.
Air. Oxygen. Oxygen.
Oxygen. Okay. What about you? What do you think?
That's I'm clueless now.
So why is oxygen important?
So to breathe.
Suppose so is oxygen important or are you important?
They are important, but air is also
When
important.
you leave, the oxygen will still remain there. Then what will be the most important thing?
They are important.
So you are the most important thing, isn't it?
Yes.
If you are not there, how does it matter whether there is oxygen, nitrogen, or hydrogen? You see, if you are not there, nothing is important. So, Bhagavad Gita starts with the very first tattva, Jiva. There is no point of learning philosophy if you are not alive. So, Krishna is telling Arjun the very first philosophy, you are not that body, you are the soul. So, soul is the most important thing. If you are not there, nothing is important. Maharashtra is not important, India is not important, the whole world is not important, Bhagavad Gita is not important if you don't exist. So, you are the first topic of Bhagavad Gita, Atma. Bhagavad Atma. Where are you sitting right now?
बोलो मुझे क्यों देख रहे हो?
Sitting in a room. You're all. What is around you?
Around us, objects are there.
Yeah, you have those curtains behind you. You have walls next to you. You're sitting in a room. So this is your environment. This is your nature. It is called Prakriti. So there is Jiva and his environment, Prakriti, the place where he stays, Prakriti. Then, what are you doing right now?
You're just
You're looking at the screen, you're talking to me, and you're breathing, your heart is beating. So you are acting. This is called karma, action. Some action is continuously taking place. So there is Jiva, he lives in his Prakriti and he acts. Now this class begins at some time, say maybe at 8:30 or something, it ends at 11 o'clock. So this is a beginning and an end. Your karma has a beginning and an end. This is called time factor. So this is the fourth factor. Your environment, your actions within that environment, the beginning and end of those actions, that is called the time factor. So now you're looking at the screen. Suppose there is some sound behind. outside the window, what will you do?
You will close the
You
window.
will look outside.
Close the-
Yes, you'll check what is going on. Right now, you are looking at the screen. If you want, if you don't want, you don't need to look at the screen. You have control over your actions. This control is known as the Ishwar factor. Ishwar, you are the lord of your own actions. So Anandram Prabhu has invited you, but it's your choice whether you want to come or not. It's your choice whether you come by bus or by auto or by scooter. So you are controller. So that is the principle of control. This is in Sanskrit called Ishvara. So you are right now, you are studying. Who's paying your fees?
Our parents.
Your parents are paying your fees. How are your parents paying your fees? Where are they getting the money from?
Survive working.
Their job, from their job, from their business. If they are working in a job, then who's paying that money? Is their boss who's paying the money? How is the boss getting the money? He's getting either from the business or he's getting it from his boss. So, in other words, there is someone over someone else. You are under the control of your parents. Your parents are under the control of their bosses. Bosses are under control of somebody else. In this way, if we go on investigating, we will find that there is a supreme controller. So, this is known as Ishwar. Everyone is an Ishwar to a certain extent, and everyone has an Ishwar over him. But over and above this, all this manifestation is the supreme controller known as Param Ishwar, or we call him Parmeshwar or Bhagavan. So, is this clear so far?
This is good.
This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. 18 chapters, 700 of verses of Bhagavad Gita are going to describe this subject matter. Just like in engineering, you see your scooter, but the scooter is a subject matter of automotive engineering, which is a sub branch of mechanical engineering. If you want to understand your scooter, you have to understand material science, metallurgy, you have to understand the thermal engineering, you have to understand fluid dynamics, you have to understand theory of making machines and mechanisms, production, manufacturing, so many theories. But the end product is there in front of you to see. So Bhagavad Gita, so this is the end product. Jiva, Prakriti, Karma, Kal, and Ishwar. This is Bhagavad Gita. So now we are talking about going back to our original topic of problems we face. All these problems are created in the Prakriti. Jiva is experiencing all of this. So if Jiva understands the principle of karma, if Jiva understands the principle of Ishvara, he will become free from all the disturbances, of all the troubles in his life. To understand this Ishwar is the goal of life. This is the purpose of life. By understanding this Ishwar, the living entity will become free from all his difficulties. But this is not so simple because Prakriti is holding us in a very tight grip. And this tight grip is known as Maya, illusion. So Jiva has to understand that he is not the Ishwar. If he establishes his connection with Ishwar, he will become free from the illusion of Prakriti. And then all his problems will vanish. So this is where Bhagavad Gita starts. So how do we understand this Ishwar? This Ishwar is understood through karma, through his actions. By, like, for example, you're sitting in your room. You want to study engineering. How do you do it? You first of all find out who is teaching engineering, what is engineering all about. Then you go to an engineering college, you take admission, and you study for 4 years or 5 years or 3 years, depending on what course you are doing. And then you become qualified. So through your karma, by acting. So to understand Ishwar also one has to act. And this process of acting to know Krishna or the Ishwar is known as yoga. So to to understand Ishwar, one has to work through yoga. Yoga literally means addition. In Sanskrit, like if you studied in Hindi, if you know Hindi or Marathi medium, yoga word is literally used to mean addition. So to add jiva to Ishwar is known as yoga. So depending on what type of process we follow, this yoga is either known as karma yoga, or it is known as jnana yoga, or it is known as bhakti yoga. So these are different processes. Bhagavad Gita delineates all of these processes one by one so that the jiva can understand the supreme and become free from material nature. Misidentification of the jiva with the material nature is the source of all problems, which is called maya. Jiva thinks that he is this body and therefore he suffers because the body has a beginning and an end, and therefore the jiva within the body suffers from illusion. So, the very first lesson of Bhagavad Gita is that we have to tolerate these sufferings. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agamapaino nityastam stitikshasva bharata. So, the very first step in trying to understand Ishwar is to tolerate the material nature. भगवान को समझने के लिए सबसे पहले आपको इस प्रकृति को सहना सीखना होगा, इस प्रकृति को सहने की शक्ति प्राप्त करनी होगी, तभी आप भगवान को समझ सकते हैं। तो भगवान कह रहे हैं मात्रा स्पर्शस्तु कौन्तेय, simply by coming in contact with the material nature, शीतोष्ण सुख दुखदा. So shita ushna, you are experiencing cold and heat. Sukha dukkada, you're experiencing happiness and sufferings from miseries. Agama paino nityas, they're coming and going continuously. Just like summer and winter come and go, this happiness and distress also come and go. Tam titikshasva bharata, therefore you learn to tolerate. So the very first step of the process of yoga is to learn to tolerate this material nature. Tolerate the urge of eating, tolerate the urge of talking, tolerate the urge of tongue, tolerate the urge of belly, tolerate the urge of female attraction, all these tolerance. Because when we tolerate, then we are able to understand ourselves. So this is the process of yoga which Bhagavad Gita is going to explain. So the very first subject matter of Bhagavad Gita is Atma or Jiva. So yes, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes,
Okay, is this far clear to you?
yes, sir.
Okay, so
What about this?
is it easy?
What about the problems of life we mentioned? So, these problems of life, like, not many of us may see it as problems as of now.
Yes, see, they are problems. I'm not saying they are not problems. They are very much problems, but we have to sort them out. So this, yes, see, your board exams are a problem. University exams are a problem. Admissions struggle, that is a problem. Ill health, you fall sick, that is a problem. So Bhagavad Gita is giving a complete solution to find the root of these problems. So see, where are these problems coming from? Let's look at it this way. Let's give a very simple example. Suppose you are suffering a headache. Okay, I'll give you my own example. When I was in ninth grade, actually, that is way back many years ago, I started suffering headache, and the headache became quite severe. I was quite like in pain. I would go to the doctor. I was living in Anushakti Nagar, BARC. We had this dispensary, very nice dispensary. You could just go there. I would go there, and the doctor would give one medicine. Here, take this medicine. And I would come back, take the medicine, but afterwards the headache would come again. I went again and again and again and again, the headache would come back. Finally, someone suggested eye test. I mean, I was a small boy. I went for an eye test, and the doctor said, like, you have a number. You have -1 and -1.25, so you are suffering. So then I had to wear specs. So as soon as I wore specs, then the headache went away. So you see, the problem was my headache, but the root of the problem was not head itself. It was the eyes. So yes, so we are suffering birth, old age, disease, and death. We are suffering from examinations and this college and everything. But the root is not this problem. The root of the problem is that we have this material body, which is the source of all troubles. Last time we had discussed this. Birth, old age, disease, and death, these are not simple problems. They are very painful. When you watch your parents growing old, when you watch your grandparents growing older, it is not very easy at all. I have seen my own parents. They were very young, then they became old in front of me, then they became very old, and then they died. And it was very painful for me. It was extremely miserable because no child can ever tolerate watching his parents grow old and weak. No child can ever, it's very difficult for you to imagine that your parents are going to die one day. It's been so many years, but it is still very painful for me to think that my parents are no more. And it's a very serious problem. It's not easy to deal with. So Bhagavad Gita gives us the strength to deal with all these things. Bhagavad Gita gives us a permanent solution. See, now I'm saying one thing. There's one thing I'd like to tell you before we go any further. Bhagavad Gita is not meant for simple, foolish people. It is meant for very intelligent people. And by intelligence, I don't mean IIT JEE intelligence. The intelligence required to understand Bhagavad Gita is spiritual intelligence. It's a very different type. You may not be IIT engineers, you may not be in AIMS or some hotshot college, but if you have a desire to understand Bhagavad Gita, that is real intelligence. Because at the end of the day, the IIT engineer will also burn on the same chita that a beggar will burn. So real intelligence is to solve this problem once and for all. So Lord Chaitanya says, Jai Krishna bhaje sei bada chatur. One who tries to understand the spiritual life is actually an intelligent man. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we had this great king called Maharaj Rishabdev. His son was Maharaj Bharat. Our land, Bharat, is known by the name of King Bharat. So the King Bharat, by whose name our land is called Bharat, this King Bharat was the son of King Rishabdev. Rishabdev was an incarnation of the Lord himself. So Rishabdev, he was a brilliant king. So when he instructed Maharaj Bharat and his brothers, he gave one instruction. He said, my dear sons, it is not a very good policy to work hard for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are available even to lower animals like dogs and hogs. When one has the facility of human birth, one should try to find the real purpose of life. One should try to become, one should try to solve the real problems of life. All these engineers, the doctors, the scientists, they're solving problems which are temporary. If you don't have a scooter or a car, you can walk. That is not a big problem. When these were not there, people were still living. But no one has solved the problem of birth and death. Bhagavad Gita is helping you solve that problem. It will give you freedom from pain of death. Bhagavad Gita will give you freedom from all fear and all kinds of lamentation, all kinds of sorrow. भय और दुख से आपको मुक्ति देगी भगवद गीता. That's why if you really want to solve all the problems of life, you should study Bhagavad Gita. So only an intelligent man actually should investigate Bhagavad Gita. So in this life, yes, you will still have to go through birth, old age, disease, and death. But if you study the Bhagavad Gita nicely and you understand it, this birth and death will never come to you again. Mam upetya punarjanma dukhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samasiddhim paramam gata. One who attains me, so Krishna is explaining in Bhagavad Gita, one who attains me never returns to this material world, which is temporary and full of miseries. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. That means one becomes free from birth and death. And not only that, by studying the Bhagavad Gita and practicing the Bhagavad Gita, you are able to liberate 10 generations before you and 10 generations after you. So 21 generations you are able to liberate if you can just understand Bhagavad Gita. This is how important Bhagavad Gita is. That's why you see there are just 3 boys here, not 3,000. Because Bhagavad Gita only the most intelligent men can understand. To come to the point of asking about Bhagavad Gita itself is a sign of intelligence. So what I have described to you today is the very first topic of Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga. This comes in the 3rd chapter of Gita. So we have discussed the very basis of why to study Bhagavad Gita and what is the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. The 5 elements: you, jiva, your environment, your karma, your action within that environment, the time in which that karma takes place, beginning and end, and finally, the controlling principle, the control over that action, Ishwar. So is this easy to understand? So Bhagavad Gita is going to be in the same way. It's going to be easy only. We have no formula to solve anything here, nothing to memorize. As we go on discussing, you'll understand all of this. So maybe when we meet next time, we start with the first chapter. You can think it over. Amar sir might have given you Bhagavad Gita or something. You can study that. Introduction, you can just read. And it's all right if you don't understand that introduction. I don't think that's too difficult, but if you don't understand, it's okay. Next time when we meet, we'll start with the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Bhagavad Gita starts with Kurukshetra. So actually, Bhagavad Gita does not start with Bhagavad Gita, it starts with Mahabharata. So Krishna does not speak in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita at all. But in that chapter, we understand the mentality, different types of mentality within the material nature, different types of nature of human beings, and how to understand spiritual life. It's a very important chapter. We will do a summary of the first chapter next time, and then we'll go on to the subject, like the depth of Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga itself, Atma Tattva. Okay. So, any questions or comments here?
Yes. So you told about here when you increase the 5 elements and the 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, you said that fifth element is like Ishvara. So when I read Bhagavad Gita, the Ishvara is also mentioned as the super soul. So one is when we talk about Ishvara, that is the controlling principle also, and at the same time, Ishvara also means super soul also, or like how do you perceive it?
Hmm. Ishwara means controller. Let's get into technical understanding. Ishwara means controller. Ishwara Tattva is control principle. For example, your parents, they are your Ishwara. I mean, without them, you wouldn't even be alive. You wouldn't even have a body. So they represent Ishwar to you. Just like you travel on the street, you see this, you go to that Khargar Chowk, you see that the Havaldar standing there, Maharashtra police. Now, Maharashtra police, I mean, he's not Maharashtra police. He's just a constable. But he's the authority. He represents the authority of Maharashtra police. He represents the authority of Indian law and order. He follows Indian penal code. So he literally represents Indian president. So what he says is the representation of Indian government. Now you cannot say, hey, you are just a tiny Havaldar, who cares for you? No, he represents the government authority there. So just like that, for a child, his parents represent the Ishvara. You haven't seen God, but God's representative is your parents. There's a controlling principle. So likewise, this Ishvara is represented in different ways. So if you talk to the constable, he will take you to a senior constable, who will take you to sub-inspector. Sub-inspector will go to an inspector. Inspector will go to assistant commissioner. He'll go to deputy inspector general. So in this way, like this whole chain of command goes. So beginning from parents, Ishwar Tattva takes different grades, eventually reaching to the final position of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So just now, since we are on this question, this Ishwar is present in 3 aspects. So Srimad Bhagavatam explains, Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. So Ishwar, actually you are also a part of that Ishwar. You are not in isolation. You are a part of that Ishwar. So Brahman, whatever you see around you, the sky, the land, the sea, the trees, everything is Brahman. So that is the external manifestation of Ishwar, Brahman. There is consciousness within your heart, आपकी हृदय की चेतना. That is known as Paramatma. He is within your heart. And beyond that heart, there is a supreme person or Bhagwan. Bhagwan Krishna, Vishnu, Narayan, all these are Bhagwan. So there is Bhagwan. He is within your heart as a reflection, that is Paramatma. He is present all around you as Brahma. So Ishwar is present in so many ways. And what to speak of all of that? Mameva ansha jeev loke jeev bhut sanatana. Manashasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. In the 7th chapter of Gita, Krishna is explaining that even you are a part of me. Mameva ansha jiva loke. So Krishna, Jiva, living entity, is a part of God himself. He's not something which has come from somewhere else. He has emanated from the Lord himself. So that is why understanding Ishwar is a bit complex. It's not that simple. Therefore, we go to Ishwar only after the 6 chapters of Gita are done. After we have done around 300, 200 verses, then we study Ishwar. Okay, so don't worry, we'll cover all of these topics, and it's not as complicated. It's quite simple. You'll understand everything.
Through the example of the police system, you are hinting towards the different degree levels of controlling tendency.
Yes, this Ishwar is manifest in different grades. Like, sometimes, many times, people ask me, can you show me God? So, yes, I can show you God, but understanding would be a bit difficult. So, I can show you God if you want to ask. Just open the window, look outside. You can see God. Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, the sun and the moon are my eyes. Srimad Bhagavatam explains the manifestation of Virat Purush. Virat Purush, gigantic Purush manifestation, the universal presentation of the Lord. So when you look at the moon, the stars, the sun, you are seeing the Lord himself. Because you don't understand, it's difficult to see him. For example, you are students, you are students of science. You know how the scooter works. But if you go to a village or someone, or show it to a small child, for a small child, an aeroplane or a car is like magic. God knows what this thing is. It just works wonderfully. But an engineer knows how it works. Like, when I was a small child, I always wanted to know how cars work, how aeroplanes work. After studying engineering, now it's not a magic. Though I like those things, I still find them interesting. But now my vision is different. Like as an electrical engineer, when I see a local train running, I can immediately see the pantograph, I can see the catenary, I can see electricity, I can see the motors, transformers, everything. But for a commerce student, these things don't make any sense. For him, it is just some machine which is working. So vision changes. So when you study Bhagavad Gita, you can actually see God. So seeing God is not a problem. Understanding Him is that requires some effort. Okay. So I would stop here today. I wouldn't want to push any further. So let's stop here today. Next time when we meet, we'll start with the first chapter of Gita, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Arjun's questions and Arjun's objections to Krishna. You have seen this in television already, Mahabharata, but now we'll see it from a very different view. We'll take a scientific view of Bhagavad Gita. Okay? So thank you very much, everyone. It's so nice to see young boys understanding Bhagavad Gita. This is really our culture. Mahaprabhu says, Bharat bhumit haile manushya janmajar, janma sarthaka kari kar paropkar. You've taken birth in the land of India. Now your job is, it's your duty to deliver the whole world. So janma sarthaka kari, perfect your life. Perfect your life and help others. See, we may see America, Russia, China as big, big countries, scientifically developed. Europe, like I live in Europe, so much of money, so much of this thing. But civilization is animalistic. They are not living human life at all. And you won't believe this. These people are horribly miserable. People are extremely unhappy. Extremely. There is so much of wealth here. Beautiful cars, beautiful streets, buildings, everything. And money is like so much. But people are extremely unhappy. Within their hearts, they are terribly lonely and terribly unhappy. So, you see, this world is not a happy place. No one is happy here. Don't believe what television shows you or what you read in the newspapers. People are extremely unhappy. These big, big Bollywood stars, big, big cricket stars, you see, they are just smiling on the photographs. In reality, they are very miserable. So it is duty of people like us to help others. So Janma Sarthaka Kari Kar Parokar. Understand Bhagavad Gita, become happy, and then help others. Okay, so you are young, you are intelligent, you can understand. Let me assure you, you will understand Bhagavad Gita very easily. And when you apply it in your life, you will find peace. Gyatva mam shantim rachati. Krishna is explaining, by knowing me, you will attain peace in your life. Then nothing will bring you pain or unhappiness. And by doing this, you will also help your parents and your brothers and sisters. Okay, and this is real Desh Seva. If you are nationalistic, this is your real Rashtra Seva. Okay, so thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, one request is, before we meet next time, my request to you is please chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We have discussed it last time also. Just Amar sir will explain how it is chanted. Just chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This mantra comes from Brahan Naradiya Purana. When you chant this mantra, you will find it easier to understand Bhagavad Gita. Because this Prakriti is in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness. When you chant Hare Krishna, you will be established in Sattva Guna. And when you are in Sattva Guna, your mind will understand Bhagavad Gita very easily. So please study once, it will be very easy to understand. Okay? So you please fix the time and let me know on the groups. Now I am free for the summer. I am working from home. So I have lots of time, so you don't need to worry. If you want to ask some personal questions, you can ask me also. Amar sir will give you my number. It's in the groups.
Yes.
So you can message me on WhatsApp and call me on WhatsApp. I will answer you. Okay? So thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you.